Today's Did You Know real estate number is 19. 19% is the number of first time home buyers who are veterans. Welcome into the First Time Keys podcast. I'm your host, Adam McAllister, and welcome back in. Thank you for making this part of your listening day. It is very much appreciative. And let's see what's going on. What can I catch you up with before we kick off today's episode? Well, I have picked up what appears to be some sort of illness, so the voice is a little bit deeper. So if you like the docile tones, well, they got just a little bit more of a docile, if you would. Ladies, how you doing? It's good to have you in. Or maybe you prefer a little more of no, no, I am your father. Either way you like it, it's a little bit deeper today. So you know what? You're welcome. Nothing anyone wants, but every now and then it does help with the broadcast quality voice. And so we're going to try to use it to the best of our abilities today. What else has happened? We're very, very excited. This morning, our youngest son and his girlfriend became first time homeowners. Woo! Yeah, super happy for them, Jeffrey and Hannah. They closed on their first home, and dad got to have a little bit of fun. So I'll share the story with you because, well, you're listening. So it's my turn to talk. So the home they bought, this is probably about a 150-year-old home here in South Central PA. From the outside, looks like it could be creepy. It's an older Victorian home with the original slate roof. So it's got all the signs of just that great Halloween house. Though when you get inside, it's got a very warm, inviting vibe. It is not creepy at all whatsoever. But I remember when we were initially looking at the home and going up into the attic is very reminiscent of the attic that we had in our first home that all of our kids were convinced was haunted. And according to my wife, it was, though I just ignored it and, out of sight, out of mind. If I'm ignorant to it, it's not really going on. But we did have our bedroom in our basement at our previous home, and my wife had this old creepy doll. You know the doll I'm talking about, kind of porcelain made with the eyes that would flap open, except with this doll, like one eye was like stuck shut, but the other eye would follow you around the room. And it was had like crayon and marker all over its head and face. So this doll would creep you out. And every time the kids would come downstairs to get, laundry out or do whatever, they would always throw a towel or a pillow, something over top this doll. So it wasn't staring at them while they were downstairs. Jeffrey, our youngest, who closed on the house today, he was probably of all the kids most famous for this. And if he didn't have access to anything, he wasn't coming downstairs. So I'm like, this is great. We have an old attic that reminds you of the old creepy attic we had in our house. I'm gonna have some fun. I gotta find a doll to put up there for walkthrough today. By the way, if you go to my TikTok page at Adam Two C's, I'll try to include a link here on the YouTube. Uh, you'll be able to see his walkthrough that he did today, and a huge thank you to the listing agent, Alicia Hayes from Remax. You were magnificent. Here's what a great agent to agent relationship will look like. I told her of this story of the creepy doll and the attic, and turns out she owns a local antique shop. So she has access to all sorts of creepy shit, including an old doll. Well, this is awesome. So a few days ago, before we got ready for closing, she sends me a photo of this doll on a little red rocking chair. And she goes, "Will this work?" And let me tell you, it's a chef's kiss. This thing is 100% on point for what I want to do, which is just scare the living bejesus out of him and have a good laugh on my own. So thankfully, last night before we got there for walkthrough this morning, She went upstairs and she takes this little creepy doll on this creepy ass chair and sticks it up in the attic facing away from the stairs. So when you just kind of creep your head above high enough, you see the top of the head, but you can't really see the doll. Well, this was just magnificent. So today we're there for walkthrough and he opens the attic. I start my phone to hit record and he gets to the very bottom step, looks up, sees the top of the baby doll, and he's out. So it was great. Again, if you head to my TikTok or head to my Facebook or Instagram, you'll see the video of this. It was great. As a parent, it's one of those great moments that you can get back at your kids. And that's really what being a good parent is about, because your kids put you through so much. And then when they become adults and you get a little taste of revenge, oh my God, just mwah, fantastic. I recommend it to everyone. If you're not getting back and having some fun with your grown kids, you're really just missing out on what it means to be a parent. So yeah, so that's how we did our day. It was fantastic. They got a house, they've got a great home. They start moving in this weekend, and it was they got to see me not just as dad, but as a realtor, and it was just an amazing, great experience, and super excited for them. So today on today's show, I've got a great interview for you. We're going to be talking with Lauren Grzymala. Her and her husband, John, they were first time home buyers back in 2019, back in the before times. Yes, they existed. And they had a very interesting experience. And one of the main reasons why I wanted to bring them to you today was they were VA home buyers. So John is a veteran. He was in the Marines, and when he got out, he then went to the State Police Academy, and that's when him and Lauren began to look at buying a home. And they initially were looking for a plot of land to build their forever home, and that changed. And we'll get into that conversation. But I wanted to bring you, if you are a veteran or you know someone who is a veteran who's looking at buying their first home, there's some lessons to be learned from this. And I'll let Lauren tell you what those lessons are and give you their experience. So, with that, it is my pleasure to welcome in Lauren Grzymala, today's guest. And welcome back. This is the First Time Keys podcast. Your host, Adam McAllister. And joining us today, past client and one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, because they are busy with so much stuff, and I just love watching and seeing everything that they're up to. So joining me today is Lauren Grzymala. Her husband John is unable to join us today because he's getting ready to leave for work. Lauren, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
We're doing fantastic. Thank you for being able to take some time out of your very busy schedule. We're going to see in a few moments if any of the kids decide to hop on camera and join us.
Very possible, yeah.
So, um, to tell Lauren and John's story, now you guys were first time home buyers
Mhm.
in a time frame in an era that is now known as the before times. Uh, be-
Pre-COVID.
yes, pre-COVID. There was a time and a life that existed way back when.
Believe it or not, I know. Yeah.
Yes. So you guys bought your home back in 2019, and John and
Mhm.
Lauren, they bought a gorgeous home uh, near-ish a man-made lake here in South Central PA. Beautiful setting, deer that run through the backyard, and it really is a gorgeous house. And Lauren, you guys are still there.
Oh my gosh, yeah. This is I don't see us ever moving from this place. When we walked in the door, the first walkthrough that we had with you, like, we both said immediately, this just felt like home for us. This felt like our forever home. And at the time, it was September of 2019. We had found out not too far before that we were pregnant with our first baby, and that would be my son Jeremy. And so when we walked in here, we were like, yes, we see us raising our family here, and that's that's what we've done so far, and I think that's what we plan on doing for at least the foreseeable future.
That's fantastic. So Before though, I want to get into the origin story. I want to get
Mm.
into how did you and John actually meet? How did this couple
Oh gosh.
initially get
We're
together?
going way back
Well,
now.
we're going to the way back.
Go
Yes.
all the way back. So, John and I are both well, so my husband is a York County native. I have lived a multitude of places, ultimately settled in York County, when I was in my early teens with my family. And my husband and I met as high school freshmen at Dallastown, which is the same school district where our children will now go, starting in the fall, actually. So we met at a good old Dallastown high school football game, and he asked me to go on a date with him, and I said yes. And we have been together ever since. That is 15 years ago this November. So we got engaged soon after our high school graduation. He went into the Marine Corps, and when he came back, um, decided to get married. That was going on 10 years ago now, this June. And so we've been married since a year or so out of high school. Um, After we got married, he went to Penn State for security and risk analysis. We moved up to Center County and we're renting up there. And when he graduated from Penn State, we were like, York is home for us. That's where we're from. That's where we've been, most of our lives. That's what's familiar. All of our family, our loved ones are there. And so we decided to come back.
What was that time like for you when John was in the Marines and when he was away?
So when he was in the Marines, I was still mostly in York. I kept really busy with work. I was managing in retail at the time. So kept super busy with work, and I had friends and family, and it was it was good for me to be home during that time because I was surrounded by the comforts of home, the comforts of familiarity and family, and yeah. So it was kind of one of those things where no news is good news, and we anticipate the worst, but we hope for the best, and that's still the way that we live now, considering the career that he's in. But yeah, so it was kind of a weird time, and at the time I was only 18 or 19, so I was also young and engaged and planning a wedding and missing my very best friend in the whole world while he was away. And yeah, so it was tough, but he had his stuff to do there and I held down the home front. So,
And that's really, when you look back, I know a lot of folks that are in the military and military spouses. My wife was one.
mhm,
And you both are in your own way serving together.
yeah. Yeah.
So he has his duties to do, and you have yours, and at the
Yes.
end you guys are still operating as a couple,
Yes.
towards the same goals. And the very first goal here was buying a home. So when you
Yeah.
made that move then from Center County back into York, what was the piece that said, okay, we're now done renting, now we want to buy? Where was that decision? How did you guys come to that?
I think we knew that York was ultimately where we wanted to end up. That's where we wanted to stay. My husband has lived here his whole life from the time he was a baby all the way through until he went into the military and then, Penn State. For me, I had moved around so often or so frequently that it was nice to have a place that felt like I actually had some roots laid down and that I was able to come back to and be like, "Oh yeah, like, you know, I used to go here with my friends, the old Frank movie theaters was one of our like first dates and we just took our kids to their first movie a couple months ago and we were like it's so weird looking back now to realize as teenagers we were here watching movies and now we're bringing our children here to watch movies. So,
It's a weird spot when you're taking your kids to a spot you used to go as a kid yourself.
mhm,
you know, in the same area, that's a whole different, like, your
Yeah.
mind just explodes going, "Wait a minute. Now I'm officially old."
Right, right. Or like we'll go to, get ice cream and we're like, "Oh, remember like we used to come here for our ice cream dates and stand in line during the summer waiting to get in there too."
And now we do it by going, "No, don't go over there. No, stop, stop. Quit hitting your brother. Stop." Well, but if I tell you this one more
Hurry
time,
up and lick that. It's gonna melt
these
onto
are
your
the
hands.
yeah, remember all these conversations and activities that we didn't do when it was just us? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
that's
we took them for granted because they were so easy before, and now it's like
correct.
juggling a three-ring circus, and you're like, "It's the best," but at the same time, you wanna go back and be like, "Hey, take advantage of this because later on, you worry about more than just yourself."
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, life moves super, super fast. I mean, we're talking about you guys buying your first home. That was 2019. That's now 6 years ago.
I know. It's
This morning,
crazy.
our youngest son and his girlfriend, they just closed on their first home.
Oh
And
my gosh,
so,
congratulations.
like, how quickly life moves.
Yeah.
And I still remember when he was riding around in a diaper in a
Mm,
in a little plastic car around the house. So,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh, it's
life
so true
moves
what they
quick.
say. The days are long, especially as a parent, the days are long, but the years are short. And, both of our kids were born during COVID, but, like, our son is about to turn 5 in March, and that just I still can't wrap my head around that
Yeah.
he's gonna be 5 because again and part of that I think is there's, like, a little bit of a time blip that comes with COVID era where you're like, "Oh, there were, like, 3 years that just, like, I don't know what happened."
There were 3 years that happened, and, at least 3 times I should have been in AA. That happened just within that first year of COVID. Like, it was ridiculous. So, let's go back. 2019, you and
Mhm.
John decide, "All right, we're gonna be home buyers. We're gonna look for our first home." We get connected and we get started. What's going through your mind as we're beginning the home buying process?
So, I don't know if you remember, initially, when we were looking at buying, we weren't even looking at buying an actual home. We were initially looking for land because we had a to-do list of or not a to-do list, but like a checklist of all the things like we wanted this thing and that and the other. And as we're compiling all of our wants and wishes, we're looking at that going, I don't think we're gonna find an existing house that has all of these things, at least, you know, not in the time that we're looking for it, and certainly not within our budget. So, we were looking at land, and the plan was to build our forever home and check off all of those boxes ourselves. So, that was the plan going into it. And, yeah, we when we found this place, I think it almost felt like, well, we'll see, we'll entertain it, we'll see how we feel about it. Surely, like, it's not gonna be as we've built up our expectation for our forever home, and such was not the case. It checked all the boxes without us even really trying to pinpoint.
Well, and sometimes that happens. I think one of the big pieces when initially talk to folks and they're thinking about buying land and building a home is the numbers and the dollars it actually takes to make the land turn into the forever home.
Yes.
What that dollar amount really is and how much it costs is astronomically high.
Oh yeah.
To where
Yeah.
you go, okay, so what are the things that are the must-haves, and can
Hmm.
we get them in a home that already exists? So,
Yeah.
again, going back when you can remember going through the house, you and John are you and John ticking off the boxes as we're going through the house going, "Hmm, yes, no, yes, no."
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, when we were walking through well, for example, one of the reasons I think that we were leaning more toward looking for land is my husband is an outdoorsman, he loves being outside, and now with, 2 kids who also love to be outside, that was a big must-have for us, And so we knew going in that we didn't want something in like a community or a development that was just going to be on a little quarter acre, or a small little backyard. We knew that we would want space. We also have two dogs who run like crazy. And so I think that was one of our highest priorities with looking for land was having the space. And I remember we looked at one plot of land where it was like a total of 12 acres or something like that, but only 1 acre of that whole thing was usable, and the rest of it flooded like constantly, like it was a swamp. And we walked through there during good weather, and then we walked through after poor weather, and yeah, I'm really glad we didn't go with that.
Yeah, yeah. And so, and to kind of set the scene, and one of the real reasons I wanted us to have this conversation was because for your experience was a little bit different than the average first time home buyer
Yeah.
because you guys were using a military loan. You guys were a VA,
Yeah.
so with John being in the Marines
Mhm.
and having that military background, you guys had the ability to use his VA benefit to buy
Yeah.
a home.
Yeah.
As you were going through the mortgage process with the VA, now we're going to put a pin in the later stuff because full disclosure, John and Lauren had quite the experience with their VA lender, who will go nameless. We won't even mention their name, but it might rhyme with maybe Metterol. And but we'll hold off on that ending piece.
Yeah.
As you were going through the mortgage process, though, on just the VA part with the pre-approval
Mhm.
and that initial mortgage application with the VA side,
Mhm.
what was your impression of that? What were your thoughts as you were going through that piece?
Oh, it was almost too easy, getting started because this particular institution is used to working with military members who are stationed overseas or in different states. So a lot of their physical branches are located on base or near base, um, within, I believe, just within the United States. But for the members that are overseas, they have really great, they had a really great process of working over the phone. So for the pre-approval, it was a matter of, you know, a, a detailed phone conversation for sure, but just going through each of the details of like, you know, our financial state, our income and existing expenses and things like that. Um, and at that point, by the time we called them, we had an idea of, we do really like this house. If it's possible through this institution, fantastic. If not, it wasn't meant to be, and that's fine. Um, so we kind of did a little bit backwards where we did have our eye on the house first, but we also knew that we couldn't have our heart set on it until that pre-approval came back good and clear. So the initial stages with them were, like I said, almost too easy, because they made themselves so readily available to talk on the phone and to get all of that underway through that.
Yeah, which is really important. I mean,
Yeah.
and hindsight being 2020, that's what we wanted to see from start to finish.
Right.
So it is very important that when you are going through that process, that you got that accessibility and that availability
Yes.
from the lender. Now, as time went on, especially as we were trying to get things closed, that's when things started to go sideways. You want to kind of pick that story up, Lauren?
Oh yeah.
Do
I
you need a
mean,
glass of wine before we get into this?
I'm still sipping my coffee. I
There
took
we
it
go.
out the night. um, yeah. So once it actually got to the loan processing department, it was hard to know who was really in charge of our particular case, who we were supposed to get in touch with. Um, there were several instances where our paperwork seemingly was lost to the wind, and we'd have to resubmit paperwork. We got smart as we went because then we just started keeping track of what we already sent, and we dated like when we sent it and how and to who. So yeah, we kind of had to be the managers of our own case file and keep tabs on everything because it just got to a point where it kind of was ridiculous how many times we had to be like, "Hey, we sent this." 2 days later, "Hey, we sent this like 2 days ago." 3 days later, "Hey, what's going on?" And, honestly, it almost cost us the house, if I remember correctly, because the sellers were kinda like, "What's going on?" We had to push back our closing date,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
So,
it got very dicey there as we were
yeah.
working our way towards closing because with this particular lender, and it's something that we've talked about and we're going to continue talking about on future episodes here. But it really is, just because they're a big national lender, or they're a lender that contracts themselves and markets themselves directly to one group, in this instance to veterans,
Mhm,
doesn't mean they're necessarily your best option, because things can get siloed
mhm,
in these different companies, and you never know which silo you need to contact in order to get the right information. And in your and John's case, it actually caused us to get a delay in our closing date, which, for a seller, when you're selling a home, their most important question is, hey, when are we closing and when are we
mhm.
getting our money?
Right.
And but in the meantime, for you guys, it's, hey, when are we actually closing? Because we've got a
We've
life to
done
lead.
everything. Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
we
yeah,
still have a
and
life, we've got things to do.
right. Yeah, and we had done everything on our part. I mean, we were reaching out to them on a regular basis. Seemed like a daily check-in with them on, their phone lines, through emails, through multiple different people. I am sure that I landed myself on a list somewhere that said, if this girl is calling, do not answer, forward her to a manager, like whatever, avoid her at all costs because yeah. And it was, I mean, it was us, it was your office, it was everyone. It was like all hands on deck trying to keep them on track, and thankfully we got it done, but at the cost of our sanity, maybe.
Yeah, and that and then it was awful because I hated for you guys to be in that situation.
Mhm.
And I could kind of prepared you guys, during it, going, this could get ugly.
Yeah,
And unfortunately it did.
yeah.
With now being in the home for 6 years,
Mhm.
if you were to look back, what were some of the things that if you could do it all over again, you would do differently?
It's a good question. I mean, probably would look more toward a local lender, at least for the initial settlement on the house or the initial closing on the house. Um, we we actually were able to refinance 3 or 4 years into owning the home, which was amazing because we ended up getting a rate that's like I don't think we'll ever see again in our lifetime. So we made out really well, but we probably would have preferred to have started with someone local and then dealt with the headache on the back end. Thankfully, for the second go around when we refinanced, we were all too familiar with the process with the lender that we were using. But as a first time home buyer going through it and everything else before that and the closing itself were pretty straightforward, pretty simple, I think, besides just that one chunk of time where everything had to be processed.
And here we are 6 years later, able to laugh about it,
Thank goodness for that.
kind of.
In the house that they gave us the headache over in the first place.
Yes, yes. Now, you guys also, if memory serves me correctly, you guys are also on a well and a septic system, not
We are, yeah.
public hookups.
Yes.
So for someone who might be looking at, oh, do we go? We're looking at house A, house B. This
Mhm,
one's on public hookups. This one has a septic system and a well. Are
mhm.
there any words of wisdom you would give to them, or anything you would tell them if they're looking at a home that has a septic compared to public sewer or public water?
Yeah, so, and that was something that this was the first time that I ever encountered any of that, because everywhere I lived before was, like you said, the public hookup. This was the first place that we had, for either of us, a sewer or septic and a well. So yeah, we have to be more mindful about like what products we use as far as like toilet paper and things like that, because not everything breaks down in the septic tank the same way. We also were in a unique position of where our septic tank was placed. And granted, our home was built in the 70s. It was originally, like most of York County, on acres and acres of farmland. According to the neighbor who owns the house that was built around the same time as ours, it was originally owned by brothers, so they plotted out this whole thing. I'm sure when the septic tank was put in initially, it wasn't a problem. Somewhere along the line, a tree was planted over our septic, and roots consistently got in and blocked up the the septic system, and we would have um like a backup in our utilities around the house. And I might not even be using like the right description of what that means, but like our showers would back up, the toilets would no longer flush. And we found that out the hard way, not once, but twice before. Yeah. Yeah. Um, so yeah, double check the location of your septic tank and find out truly the ins and outs, because ultimately we ended up having the area around the septic tank regraded, so that won't be a problem for us anymore. But it was a problem that we had to fix twice, had to have people come out and fix before we came up with the permanent solution. Um, and as far as the well, I think the only time we've really had an issue with it is when we lose electricity to the house, because the pump shuts off. The pump functions with the electric. And so we have to be a little more sparing if we lose power to the house, because it no longer has the pump to draw the water up out of the well. But we're not far from the lake, so knock on wood, it's never gone dry, and hopefully it won't. Um, but yeah, that was definitely something that we both had to become familiar with, because before that we never thought anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, whether you're on public water and you just go, "Hey, I'm gonna take a 45-minute shower because I can,"
Yep.
or, if an instance, military-wise, if you're living on base and it's being taken care of, by the military, by the US taxpayer,
Yep.
then, you look at it. I mean, I remember our oldest son, Nathan, when he was in South Dakota.
Hmm.
He was stationed at Ellsworth Air Force Base,
Yeah.
and we went out to visit him after our granddaughter was born,
Hmm.
and we would leave, and they're like, and I'm like, "Aren't you shutting the lights off?" "Oh, no." I'm like, "What about the bill?" "Oh, we don't have a bill."
They
"Wait a
covered it
minute."
all. Yeah.
I said, "Wait a minute. As someone who pays taxes, I pay this bill. You're shutting the damn lights off before we head out. Yeah, this is BS." So
My money you're spending.
that's
You
right.
thought you were done with that when he grew up and moved out. You weren't.
No, absolutely not. No. All right, is that Jeremy who's
That's Jeremy who's popping.
nice. In By the way, for those watching on YouTube, that is the official Bluey sweatshirt.
One of many.
One of many. Yes. Jeremy, how's it going?
You again?
Good.
Oh,
There we
bye.
go.
He's gone. He's
Yeah, it's all good. So, if you had to go back and do it all again, or you were talking to someone who said, "Hey, we're thinking about starting the home buying process,"
Mhm.
what's the advice that you would give them? What's number one and number two thing you would tell them about buying their first home?
I don't know that my advice necessarily comes from our home buying process, because, like you said, it we bought our home in a completely different era. So we had the ability of not being on such a tight time constraint. I know soon after we bought our house is when the market went haywire, and we had friends who moved from Las Vegas, Nevada, again, military, uh, back to York, and it was like they'd no sooner put in an offer and the house would sell out from under them, and it was so tight. And several of our friends, we were in that era that everyone was buying, and a lot of them bought homes without the home inspection, and that was a gamble that did not always prove to be worth it. Um, so yeah, I think first and foremost, like that pre-approval, don't get your heart set on something until you got that pre-approval in hand, because you can have, goals sky high for what you think, and in your own budget that might make sense, but if the bank looks at you and says that's not going to happen, then there is nothing worse than trying to live up to your dream home that you found that is now out of budget, and you're not going to replace that. And always go for the home inspection, especially, and for that, our septic tank, case in point, the home inspection, I think, did make note of the fact that there was the potential for roots to grow there because of the location. And so thankfully it didn't take us long to figure out what the issue was, but we had that to back us up to say, hey, this is like a thing that was already happening when we bought the house. So, and then we also knew what we were walking into as far as the work that needed to be done, what needed to be fixed, what had already been fixed, before, walking away with the keys and then falling into the money pit.
Right, because you guys kinda bought that house knowing there were gonna be renovations and some things that you guys were gonna
Yeah.
be doing to it.
Yeah.
So it was bought, I don't wanna say bought as a project, but it was also bought as a, "Hey, we're gonna be here for a while, and there's some things
Yes.
that the previous owner had that doesn't fit the way we wanna live, so we
Yes.
know we're gonna make some updates to it."
Yeah. Yeah. And it was for us, I think it was realizing that we were okay with it. Some families, they want the house to be perfect and everything to be touched up when they walk in. For us, we understood that to be part of us making this house our home and molding it to fit our needs and our family. And so we were okay with kind of wiggling a little bit on some of the things that maybe other people would have walked away from.
And any other plans, coming up for the house? Any new renovations that are in the
Oh
works
gosh.
or on the sheet?
So a few years ago, we put in a concrete patio, concrete slab, and we had it installed with the hookups for the hot tub and everything. So we have a hot tub out there now that used to all be grass. So like not really usable. Now our grill is out there, fire pit. It's a great place for entertaining. And I don't know if you remember, there were storm doors that opened up that led down into the basement.
Yes.
So the storm doors are going to need some freshening up at the very least, and then we're going to replace the stairs that lead down into the basement and add some lighting on the walls so that we can open those doors in the summertime and have a kind of a indoor outdoor entertainment, because those doors lead straight into our finished basement with the bar that's down there. So everyone can jump out of the hot tub and go straight down, get a drink, and head back out to the fire pit.
That sounds like a great setup.
I know, right?
All the while, the deer coming from the back, uh,
Yeah.
being
Oh
able
my
to
gosh,
spy on
we
you
have
guys too.
deer. Yeah, they come up like right to our window. And not too terribly long ago, before it got really, really cold, we had owls out in the backyard that, like, right out of our window, you could hear them calling back and forth to each other. There were two different ones. So we have quite an array of wild animals that visit us, everything from ravens and the deer and owls to we've had foxes, possums, and raccoons out there. So it's like a wildlife safari right out of our ginormous window in our master bedroom.
And how many times do you have to tell the kids it's not a petting zoo?
Um, Thankfully, they haven't tried to pet anything, but they do get very excited when they see something outside. They want to shut off all the lights and they're like, "Shh, don't scare them away." And I think they've named a few of them. So yeah, let's just hope that one day they don't try to end it in the house.
Right.
Mr. Fox can stay outside. He doesn't need to
Yeah.
come in.
Yeah, just hey, kids, don't forget anything that doesn't have legs definitely does not come into the house.
Mm. Yeah, no, if
Yeah.
it's anything like a snake, I'm good.
Yeah, no. Not allowed. No,
No, no, no. No, no,
no.
no. We're gonna keep that far, far away from here. But yeah, the kids have their space outside. We have it's been a great house for entertaining. We have a lot of our like holiday traditions here, our extended family and friends that come over. Would you like to come over? You can say something.
So I'm playing Don't Break the Ice.
We have plenty of space for the kids to play in their
Yep.
room, in the living room. It looks like it's been overrun currently.
Welcome
But
to life with kids. Yes.
it literally, yeah, with a 5-year-old and a 4-year-old, that's you're not gonna get away from it. But
No.
that's that was one of our biggest goals was we wanted it to be a place that was big enough to fill with everyone that we loved, but not so big that it felt empty and echoey when it was someday it's just going to be me and John in here. So we don't want to feel lost in our own home. But this house has done all of that and more. I think this has become a bit of a safe haven for us and for our kids and for everyone who comes here. So
Which
we're
is
very
exactly what home is supposed to be.
it's exactly right.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's, we were just talking about that the other day. It's like, look, don't treat the home buying process like you treat buying anything else, whether it's an
Right.
article of clothing or a pair of sneakers or even a car. At the end of the day, you're buying where you're putting your head every night.
Yeah.
You're going to celebrate birthdays and holidays and special events. Give it the time and the energy it really needs to have.
Yeah. Your home becomes an extension of who you are and your family, if whether you're married, whether you have furry children, whether you have human children, it becomes it's just it becomes part of your identity. It becomes a testament to who you are and the care that you put into yourself and your surroundings. So, especially, for us, I think we felt like we were going to get out of this home what we were willing to put into it, and we knew that we were willing to put our life, our lifetime into these four walls. So.
That's awesome. Lauren, I'm going to give you the last word. What would be your last piece, your most important piece of advice or wisdom you'd have to share with someone?
Oh, no pressure. Yeah, no, I think that's pretty much it. Like your home is truly what you make of it. If you walk into your home and you're carrying your stress of the world and everything that you hated about that day or everything that really bothered you and ate at you, that's going to be what echoes throughout your home. That's going to be the energy that your home carries versus if you feel like you have a place that you can come and hey, today didn't turn out exactly the way I would have wanted it to, but I'm leaving that at the door and now I'm in my sanctuary. I can lay my head here. I can be comfortable and I can, you know, relax like into myself and just enjoy being present. I think that that's all you can ask for out of your home is a place that you can feel safe and serene.
I love it. I love it. Well, I appreciate you giving us a few minutes of your time, especially right after work. And I'm going to let you
Yeah.
go back to enjoying some of that relaxation and serenity while having to, play mom tonight and be with kids. So, so
That'll be okay. Yeah. I mean, we'll turn on some Bluey and it sounds like Layla will also enjoy Bluey.
yeah, I will again. So Bluey, we talked about this before we started recording. Bluey is the official cartoon of our dog Layla, who's a 3.5-month-old boxer. And so it's either Bluey or like yesterday, she decided to eat an entire tub of butter. So we're gonna stick with Bluey over butter. Yeah.
Put on a t-shirt, Bluey over butter.
Bluey over butter. Yeah, that's my 2025 slogan. Give me Bluey, not butter. Yeah, it's
Yes. More Bluey, less butter.
Oh my. Well, Lauren, again, thank you so much for taking some time out today. And thank
Absolutely.
John and everything that you guys have done. Always enjoy seeing your guys' updates. And
Yeah, it was good to see you again. Good to
you
talk
too.
with you.
Can't thank Lauren enough. Her husband, John, who unfortunately was unable to be with us today as he was getting ready and heading out for work. In fact, you didn't see it on the video or didn't hear it on the podcast. He actually was heading out and was giving away a few, like, hey, this needs done, this needs done. And I got to go. Love you. Bye. So we edited that out of the video, but really appreciate her for coming on. And the point she makes about the lending and the loan up, the mortgage part of this is something I really want you to take heart, because it is so important. And I've dealt with this with many different veterans who are looking at buying not just their first home, but their next home. There are companies out there and there are loan and mortgage companies out there that their primary target is marketing directly to the veteran community. Some do a good job, most don't. And it's more of a spaghetti that sticks to the wall mentality. And there's very little accountability that happens there. And you get 3, 4 weeks into a contract for buying a house and you feel stuck because now they got everything. And man, the goalpost is right there. And if they would just stop screwing something up, you can close. So it's sort of like that, you're driving down the field and you can see the end zone. But man, no matter what you do, there's a blocker that's hitting you and you just can't get there. That's why you heard her say, talk to a local lender. Throughout many areas of the country, I will tell you, a local lender is going to be your best option for your mortgage, whether you're a VA buyer or whether you're just a normal first time home buyer who's going FHA, conventional, USDA, any kind of mortgage product, because there's just a higher level of responsibility and accountability. You don't have the silos with most local lenders. You don't get the silos of different departments like you have with these national lenders. And I'm sure if you're a national lender listening to this, you're cussing at me right now. And I'll tell you right now, I don't care because I've dealt with so many of them with these same problems. And you don't realize it when you get into this. But when you get into a situation where closing gets delayed, you start getting some very hostile personalities because you've got a seller who's like, hey, when are we closing? I need my check. I'm ready to move on. You've got buyers who are going, wait a minute, we've got a life. We've got school that starts for the kids. I've got work that starts for ourselves. We've got moving trucks lined up. And if we've got to keep moving these things, and changing the dates for when we need the movers, all that costs money. We put deposits down. So every time that closing gets delayed, there's more money going out that shouldn't have been going out in the first place as extra fees because of the moving of the closing date, the moving of the goalpost. So it's why having that trusted local lender and those trusted people in your corner from the very jump, from the very start of this is so vitally important. And I appreciate Lauren coming on and having the conversation and addressing that to give you that experience firsthand so that when you're ready to start, you don't make the same mistake. Because we did have that conversation. I'm like, look, I know the company that you're dealing with. I know why you're dealing with them, but I'm not sure they're going to get it done. And unfortunately, we had gotten too far in and that it was too late to bring somebody else in. So, again, learn the lessons that you're hearing here because they are truly meant to give you firsthand knowledge and to set you up for success when it's time to buy your first home. I appreciate you listening in today. I'll see you guys next time. This is Adam McAllister and the First Time Keys Podcast. See you guys.